Good evening, everyone, and happy flippin' Friday. My name is Season Pixels, and you're watching The Breakdown here on Foxhole, D-Live, Rumble, X, and YouTube. How's everyone out there doing? Let me know in the live chat. We have a lot of news to get through tonight. Looking forward to covering all of the stuff. Subpack Vet checking in over there on Pilled says, "Damn, brother, you're looking spiffy." Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate it. I'm feeling spiffy today. A lot better than I was feeling it yesterday. I can tell you that much. I don't know what the hell happened to me yesterday, guys, but I just got like a wave. It was like, I don't know, like a half hour before my show. And I got like this wave of nausea along with a stomach ache. I don't know if maybe something I ate didn't agree with me or what. I have no idea, but didn't feel that great yesterday evening. But anyways, we're feeling great today and ready to jump into a big pile of news. We have 34 pieces today. Let's just go ahead and get this party started, guys. Over at theepictimes.com, we have our first story of the night, and this actually kind of excites me. DOJ sues Georgia's Fulton County for access to 2020 ballots. If you guys will recall, I believe this is kind of where that whole thing happened, where they're like, oh, there's a bursted pipe, we gotta shut everything down, and then they rigged the election, basically using that bursted pipe as an excuse. So, very interesting. Also, recently, President Trump made some comments saying that soon, everything about the 2020 election and its rigging will be coming out. I look forward to that. Hopefully, that is exactly what is going to occur. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a look here at the Epic Times, their story here on this. They say the Department of Justice is suing Fulton County, Georgia, to obtain voting records from the 2020 election. Let's just hope they haven't deleted them all. The Fulton County suit, filed on December 11th, stems from a July resolution passed by the State Election Board of Georgia, calling upon the assistance of the Attorney General to effect compliance with voting transparency. In October, the DOJ requested all used and void ballots, stubs of all ballots, signature envelopes, and corresponding envelope digital files from the 2020 general election in Fulton County. Fulton County officials replied that their records remain under seal and would not be produced without a court order. The DOJ also announced on December 12th that it is taking Colorado, Hawaii, Massachusetts, and Nevada to court over their failure to comply with previous requests to turn over their voter registration records. So essentially, the DOJ, they're going on kind of a crusade to dig through all these states' voter records and figure out what the hell is going on. 14 other states have recently been hit with similar legal action. So this is very widespread across the country, basically. The DOJ said it wants to inspect voter rolls to make sure they are clean and up to date, which, why would you not want voter rolls to be clean and up to date? Well, I guess the answer to that question, the only real answer, is that, well, they want bloated voter rolls in order to vote, right, with those all those extra registrations. It's one of the ways that elections are rigged, after all. At this Department of Justice, we will not permit states to jeopardize the integrity and effectiveness of elections by refusing to abide by our federal elections laws. If states will not fulfill their duty to protect the integrity of the ballot, we will. The requests were sent out following President Donald Trump's executive order asking the DOJ to verify that states were checking citizenship status for those who registered to vote in compliance with federal law. And honestly, it's pretty ridiculous that states have to be asked to do this. They should just be doing this by default. Kind of exemplifies the problem overall, is that unfortunately half the country doesn't really care about election integrity. In fact, to the extent they care about it, they don't want election integrity, right? They want to cheat. The DOJ in its suits has cited laws such as the National Voter Registration Act and Help America Vote Act, which regulate voter registration and require states to preserve certain voting records after elections. It also cites Title III of the 1960 Civil Rights Act, which says the states must turn this information over to the U.S. Attorney General upon request. So, I mean, seems pretty cut and dry to me. This litigation should not take long. I look forward to giving you guys an update on this lawsuit. But it sounds to me like the DOJ is going to be winning this one very easily. So there is that, my friends. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one here, which comes from theepictimes.com as well. And this one's quite interesting. Trump says he is pardoning former Colorado County Clerk Tina Peters. And what's interesting about this is that the common knowledge is, or the common understanding is, that the President of the United States cannot pardon somebody for state crimes, which is what Tina Peters was convicted of. So it's interesting. Let's go ahead and dig in and see if there's anything here that, where President Trump thinks that he might be able to actually step in and help out Tina Peters. Clearly, he does. President Donald Trump said on December 11th that he is pardoning Tina Peters, a former Colorado County clerk convicted of election machine tampering in the aftermath of the disputed 2020 election. And she didn't really tamper with the machines. She was actually trying to make sure that the data on the election was not deleted. And I think that they're actually required by law to keep it for 2 years or something like that. So she was actually trying to comply with the law, make sure that her part of Colorado was complying with the law. Obviously, they were trying to not do that, and because she got in their way, she ended up in prison. So the presidential pardon of the Republican former officeholder appears to be symbolic. The pardons clause of the U.S. Constitution says the president has the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States. The clause also allows presidents to grant preemptive pardons to individuals who have not yet been convicted of federal offenses. But here's where it gets weird. Peters was convicted in Colorado State Court in August 2024 of election-related charges, such as allowing unauthorized access to voting machines, and sentenced to 9 years of incarceration. Peters previously said on her website that her efforts as Mesa County clerk were aimed at upholding election integrity by creating a forensic backdrop of a county election server. Trump wrote in a Truth Social post that Peters is incarcerated in a Colorado prison for the crime of demanding honest elections. Democrats only think there is one crime, not voting for them. Instead of protecting Americans and their tax dollars, Democrats chose instead to prosecute anyone they can find that wanted safe and secure elections. Peters is a patriot who simply wanted to make sure that our elections were fair and honest, who is in prison for the quote-unquote crime of demanding honest elections, the president wrote. Colorado Governor Jared Polis, a Democrat, said the presidential pardon was invalid in Peters' case. Peters was convicted by a jury of breaking Colorado state laws, Polis wrote on X after Trump made his announcement. Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser also said the presidential pardon was not legally binding. One of the most basic principles of our Constitution is that states have independent sovereignty and manage their own criminal justice systems without interference from the federal government, Weiser said in a statement. The idea that a president could pardon someone tried and convicted in state court has no precedent in American law, would be an outrageous departure from what our Constitution requires, and will not hold up, he said. Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani offered a possible rationale for Trump's pardon of Peters. Quote, while Tina is currently in state prison, the pardon ensures the federal government cannot pursue federal charges and gives renewed focus and attention to Tina's story, Giuliani wrote on X. Which, yeah, sounds to me that's exactly what President Trump was trying to do. Although Giuliani has not been convicted of any federal offenses, Trump preemptively pardoned him last month in connection with his efforts to challenge the 2020 presidential election results. Giuliani oversaw the 2020 Trump campaign's legal efforts to contest the elections. So there is that, guys. Once again, from theepictimes.com. Obviously, Tina Peters will not be let out of prison because of this pardon. It's largely symbolic. It's also to stop the feds from bringing charges against her in the future. And it's also to bring more attention to her case, probably in an attempt to pressure these Democrat psychos out of Colorado to free her. Unfortunately, I just don't think that's going to happen. So there is that, guys. Once again, from the Epic Times, I will keep you guys updated on Tina Peters, but overall, it's just a really sad story. I truly do believe that she did the right thing. She was just trying to back the data up when the other officials were basically trying to delete it in contravention of federal law. So, yeah, it's just awful what happened to Tina Peters, and the people that did this to her, lowest of the low, the scum of the earth. So there is that. Next one here from JoeHoft.com. Tina Peters' attorney, Peter Tickton, shares statement on Tina's pardon. Colorado has no right to hold her, he says. So on Thursday evening, Tina Peters was pardoned by President Trump. Many prayers were answered. President Trump shared the following post on Truth Social on Thursday night, saying, "For years, Democrats ignored violent and vicious crime of all shapes, sizes, colors, and types. Violent criminals who should have been locked up were allowed to attack again. Democrats were also also far too happy to let in the worst from the worst countries so they could rip off American taxpayers. Democrats only think there is one crime, not voting for them. Instead of protecting Americans and their tax dollars, Democrats chose instead to prosecute anyone they can find that wanted safe and secure elections. Democrats have been relentless in their targeting of Tina Peters, a patriot who simply wanted to make sure that our elections were fair and honest. Tina is sitting in a Colorado prison for the crime of demanding honest elections. Today, I'm granting Tina a full pardon for her attempts to expose voter fraud in the rigged 2020 presidential election. Earlier this week, Peter Ticktin, Tina's attorney and a high school classmate of President Trump, sent a letter to President Trump requesting a pardon. He shared it with us at the Gateway Pundit. The reason for the pardon is that Tina is a witness to the most serious crime perpetrated against the U.S. in history. After the 2020 election, when Peters discovered that the election results in her county had changed after a system update was performed, which was mandated by the Colorado Secretary of State, she notified the authorities and the public of her findings. Tina Peters saved copies of her election results before the update in accordance with state and federal law, and for doing so, she was imprisoned for 9 years. She was imprisoned for doing her job. Late Thursday evening, Peter Ticktin shared the following. My team, John Case, Patrick McSweeney, Robert Sinkar, Stephanie Lambert, Tina herself, and I are grateful beyond words to President Trump for his courage and for once again doing what is right. He has always been true to his beliefs and continues to fight against injustice. God bless our president. Governor Polis and his Secretary of State, Jena Griswold, claim that Tina Peters belongs in prison. However, she's actually a political prisoner. Why else would a 70-year-old lady convicted for victimless white-collar crimes be held in the maximum security unit of a prison where she has the smallest cell of about 7 square feet for her cellmate and her next to their beds? In fact, since midday on Monday, she's been in the hole. Solitary confinement is such a cruel punishment that it causes the most extreme monsters to behave themselves and comply with the rules. Yet she has been in solitary confinement not for doing anything wrong, but just for her perceived protection. The governor said that he will abide by the judgment of the courts. However, the process of litigation takes time, and Tina Peters needs to be released while the legal issues are being resolved. The governor has no way to know which way the courts will decide the issue of whether President Trump has the right to pardon prisoners who were convicted of state offenses. As such, he has no right to hold her. It is not an option for him to hold someone in prison when he cannot know if she should be released or held. That issue must always be determined in favor of the individual who is incarcerated. He has no right to keep a person in prison because she may belong there. If he does, he is, at the very least, imprisoning a pardoned lady, which has serious legal ramifications and liabilities. The fact of the matter is that those in power, such as Governor Polis and his Secretary of State, Jena Griswold, become lulled into their echo chambers to be blind to the fact that their situation is changing. Today, these folk are in charge, but tomorrow they're going to be held accountable. This is especially true for Jena Griswold, who was the one who wiped and rewrote the hard drives of the Dominion hard drives when she had the trusted build installed. Instead of fighting to have Tina Peters in prison, she should realize that her time is limited before she may be in handcuffs herself. After all, her deletion of the hard drives was a violation of federal law. It is so ironic when the one who destroyed evidence is taking a harsh position that the one who is preserving the evidence remains in prison. If they have any smarts at all, they would stop their silly game of wrongfully imprisoning an innocent woman for whom half of this country are celebrating the pardon President Trump granted. So there is that, guys. Once again, from JoeHuft.com. Again, extremely sad situation. I really do hope that Tina Peters can be freed at some point in time, but it appears that the Colorado officials are not budging after the pardon by President Trump. And who knows, maybe this will end up in court. Kind of sounds like Peter Ticktin here, the lawyer of Tina Peters, kind of wants to see it go that way. So who knows, guys? We'll see what happens. Next one here comes out of the EpicTimes.com. Wisconsin Supreme Court panels meet to rule on redistricting. A pair of 3-judge panels created by the Wisconsin Supreme Court will meet for the first time on December 12th to hold hearings ahead of an eventual ruling on whether the state's congressional district boundaries can be revised. The initiative to revise the boundaries includes 2 lawsuits, with one filed by Wisconsin Business Leaders for Democracy, a progressive organization against the Wisconsin Electoral Commission. The organization contends that the current U.S. House of Representatives district maps violate the Constitution of Wisconsin and is seeking to have them nullified and redrawn ahead of the 2026 congressional general election in the state. Under state law, cases regarding the apportionment of voters in an electoral district are initially heard by 3-judge panels of state judges, after which an appeal may be made to the Supreme Court. An order is on November 25th, The court declared it would appoint such panels, which would meet at the Circuit Court of Dane County in the state capital, Madison. It is unclear whether the panels will reach a final decision or whether the appellate process will be completed in time for the 2026 elections, which will be held on November 3rd. Redistricting cases usually require voluminous documentation to demonstrate how discrimination against a protected class of people has taken place in any given area or constituency. Intervening in one of the lawsuits is U.S. Representative Glenn Grothman, a Republican from Wisconsin, who represents the 6th District of Wisconsin, covering many dairy farms in the cities of Oshkosh and Sheboygan, which is being targeted for reapportionment through the lawsuits. Moving the district line south toward Madison and the Milwaukee metropolitan area would increase the number of Democrats in the district and thus hurt his chances of re-election. The order to issue the 3-judge panels was decided by a vote of 5-2 on the court. Justices Annette Ziegler and Rebecca Bradley, who are usually seen as conservatives, wrote separate dissents to criticize the court's actions. Today is not a good day for Wisconsin's judicial system. Our court has undermined its own constitutional authority in furtherance of affording the Democratic Party even more partisan political advantage than it already has with Governor Evers' congressional maps in place, wrote Ziegler. Redistricting and reapportionment authority belongs to the legislature, not the judiciary. It occurs after a census. Usually, congressional redistricting occurs every 10 years after the decennial U.S. Census, which measures population changes and apportions seats to states in the House of Representatives on that basis. The last census was conducted in 2020, but in 2025, redistricting has occurred in several states at the behest of President Donald Trump to gain a political advantage for the GOP in the House. Democrats have responded to thwart it. The majority entertains yet another kick at the redistricting cat. Unlike Schrodinger's cat, this one most assuredly has been dead for years. I dissent, wrote Bradley. So there is that, guys, once again from theepictimes.com, and obviously this is an ongoing matter of litigation. We shall see what ends up happening here, and of course I will bring you guys all the updates on this as we move forward. Next one here comes from Daily Wire. Indiana governor vows to help Trump primary misguided state senators who rejected redistricting. So, Indiana Governor Mike Braun blasted his fellow Republicans on Thursday who voted against a Trump-backed redistricting proposal. What the flip, dude? Are you shitting me right now? Go away. Indiana Governor Mike Braun blasted his fellow Republicans on Thursday who voted against the Trump-backed redistricting proposal, vowing to help President Donald Trump launch primary challenges against the misguided state senators. Braun, a former U.S. senator who's serving his first term as governor, accused a small group of Republicans of working with Democrats to stop a new congressional map that would have likely flipped 2 more House seats to the GOP in the 2026 midterm elections. I'm very disappointed that a small group of misguided state senators have partnered with Democrats to reject this opportunity to protect Hoosiers with fair maps and to reject the leadership of President Trump, Braun said. Ultimately, decisions like this carry political consequences. I'll be working with the president to challenge these people who did not represent the best interest of Hoosiers. While Braun claimed it was a small group of Republicans who rejected the redistricting effort, the congressional map was opposed by the majority of GOP state senators, which means the majority of GOP state senators in Indiana need to be freaking primaried yesterday. Braun's statement was on X was hit with a community note to add that context. The Daily Wire reached out to Braun's office for comment. The redistricting proposal failed in a 19-31 vote on Thursday, which included 21 of the 40 Republican state senators opposing the congressional map that aimed to flip 2 Democratic House seats to Republican control. Senator Sue Glick, who voted against the map, said, "You have to know Hoosiers, we can't be bullied." Senator Greg Walker argued that the map was unconstitutional. In a fiery floor speech before the vote, Republican Majority Floor Leader Chris Garden urged his colleagues to support the new map, arguing, "Some will say these maps are political. Let me be clear, you're damn right they are. Political policy is political. Safe streets are political. Look at Indianapolis. Affordable electricity is political. A drug-free Indiana is political. Peace in the Middle East is political." And he's totally correct about this. Following the vote, Trump ripped Senate Pro Tempore Roderick Bray, who voted against the GOP-favored map. He'll probably lose his next primary whenever that is. I hope he does, because he's done a tremendous disservice, Trump said of Bray. I'll certainly support anyone who wants to go against him. Trump told reporters in the Oval Office that he could have done more to support the redistricting effort in Indiana, which would have added 2 seats for Republicans in next year's elections. I won Indiana all 3 times by a landslide, Trump said, and I wasn't working on it very hard. It would have been nice. I think we would have picked up 2 seats if we did that. Vice President J.D. Vance traveled to Indiana in recent months to meet with Governor Braun and help kickstart the redistricting plan as Trump called on red states to pass new congressional maps. On Thursday, Vance accused Bray of telling the White House that he wouldn't fight the redistricting effort while simultaneously whipping his members against it. Bray denied the accusations leveled against him by the vice president, saying, "Typically my style is to let people vote like they want. They could come with a yes or come with a no. It's exactly what I did this time." Republican-led states, including Texas, Missouri, and North Carolina, have all passed new congressional maps that will likely help Republicans, while California voters approved a new map that could help Democrats. So there is that, guys, once again from DailyWire.com. And of course, I will keep you guys updated on all the redistricting stuff. It seems that it will not be happening in Indiana, which is extremely, extremely disappointing. And obviously, we have a lot of primarying to do, so there is that. Matt1776 out there says, "How are the pixels flowing?" and gives a cookie and says, "For the pixels." Thank you very much for the cookie, Matt, as always. And we're doing A-okay over here on the breakdown. Having a good old time, a grand old time covering the news. We are just a few stories in here on our 5th story, transitioning over to the 6th. So just scratching the surface of what we got today. Let's go ahead and jump back in over at thegatewaypundit.com. Whistleblower on Somali fraud in Ohio says Minnesota is just the tip of the spear. And yeah, this is kind of one of the thoughts that I've had recently. Like, you can't tell me it's just Minnesota, right? As a blue state that has like an issue with all of this fraud. I'm guessing that every single blue state in some way or another has a massive fraud problem, and it's probably connected to illegal immigrants. So let's go ahead and take a look at the story here. Ohio attorney Mehek Cook joined Fox News Digital and warned that the social services scandal within the Somali community in Minnesota is only the tip of the spear, as fraud in the Buckeye State is just beginning to unfold. And yeah, we might be seeing a whole lot more. The Gateway Pundit reported that the sprawling Somali-linked fraud networks may be far larger and more deeply embedded than the public was ever told. What was originally reported as a $250 million Feeding Our Future scandal and later acknowledged as a $1 billion fraud may now exceed $8 billion, according to whistleblowers in new federal investigations. So it sounds like what's going on in Wisconsin about to get a whole lot worse, the revelations there. In an explosive announcement on X, U.S. Small Business Administrator Kelly Loeffler revealed that numerous individuals and nonprofits indicted in the Minnesota COVID relief scandal also received SBA PPP loans and other federal payouts, suggesting a coordinated multi-agency exploitation of pandemic programs. Cook confirmed to Fox News that providers within the Ohio Somali community have confided to her that they have been pressured to join in a massive Medicaid fraud scheme that involves doctors rubber stamping home health care payouts to the family members of elderly individuals for fake medical conditions. Sounds fraudulent to me. Subpack Vet out there says, "I'm sure you'd find fraud in every state." Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, not even just the blue states, but every state probably has at least a little bit of fraud. Seems this story is getting more into Minnesota. The way that they titled the way that they titled the story here kind of made it seem like it was more states than Minnesota, but no, it seems like it just gets deeper in Minnesota here. Fox News reports on this, saying she explained that scammers in the community have been exploiting a loophole in Ohio's Medicaid program. So here we go. It is Ohio, so another state that allows individuals to receive Medicaid payments totaling as much as $91,000 per year per individual for care they are supposedly providing to a family member. Doctors who approve these payments in turn receive kickbacks themselves, according to Cook. And yeah, that's where it can really get widespread, right? And start costing billions of dollars. They're just rubber stamping a lot of these, and then that same individual a week later that's supposed to be bedridden is all over social media, whether they're out dancing at a party or something like that. So the symptoms aren't really adding up at the end of the day. Cook noted that she believes that the problem today is not the community, it's actually the criminals within the Somalian community that have exploited Ohio's Medicaid program, because we have a system right now that's one of the easiest in the Midwest to game. Cook noted that the whistleblowers who shared the damning information did so at significant risk. Most of the individuals who have come to talk to me, Peter, are terrified. They have said, I will be stoned to death if I show my face on camera or expose what's happening. ACT for America founder and chairman Brigitte Gabriel shared a video taken on the ground in Ohio alleging how some of the fraud may be unfolding. And we'll go ahead and watch both of these clips. First, looks like a conversation here. It's actually 10 minutes long from Fox News Digital. We will have to pause this every once in a little while here. And it's also just not full screening. So I'm going to have to just zoom it way in for you guys. And yeah, that's pretty much the extent to which I can get it on full screen. So let's go ahead and check it out. Let's hear what they're talking about here. Sounds like Ohio maybe scooped up in the whole fraud story as well. Let's check it out.
I mean, there's a lot of fraud and it's cyclical here. Most of the individuals that have come and talked to me, Peter, are terrified. They have said, and I quote, I will be stoned to death if I show my face on camera or expose what's happening. I think that Minnesota was just the tip of the spear. And as you continue to see what's happening across the country, I think logically you should start with a place like Ohio. We have the second highest Somalian population. I live in Columbus, Ohio, so we have between 40 and 60,000 Somalian residents. We're one of the largest Somali communities in the United States. And many came here legally. There were refugees between the 1990s and 2000.
I really don't care how they came here. I wish they never came here in the first place. Like, that's the thing. Like, we need to start getting real serious about this. I don't care how they came into this country, whether they were refugees or what. It doesn't matter to me. Why is the whole world's problems ours? Why do those problems have to be ours, right?
And many of them are law-abiding. I know the Somalian community.
Give me a break. Again, I don't. I want them out. I want them all out. I don't care how much they haven't broken any laws. I really don't care. Sounds to me like a lot of them are breaking a lot of laws, actually, defrauding the state in several states of billions of dollars.
Great people. Many of them are working hard. The problem today is not the community. It's actually the criminals within the Somalian community that have exploited Ohio's Medicaid.
And those law-abiding people, those Somalis, are they gonna rat on the other Somalis, or do you think they're covering for them? Because I think they're covering for them, and that's why we haven't heard anything about this. And who knows how long this has been going on? By the way, who knows?
Program, because we have a system right now. It's one of the easiest in the Midwest to game. I was able to uncover through confidential sources that are part of what are called the provider community, individuals that came to me to state that there is massive fraud in the Somalian community. When you look at the program today, most of these waivers in the Ohio Medicaid program, you're looking between about 80,000 people a year. That's all individuals in Ohio that can qualify. Less than 60% of that is institutional care. So when home care are going up to about 60%, we're able to actually provide care if you can find a provider. So in Ohio and
real quick, RY Guy for Life says, I live here in Columbus, Ohio. The Somali problem is ridiculous. ICE, come to Columbus now. Yeah, let's hope that we see some ICE action in Ohio, because I know that there's a few Ohioans out there that would really, really like to see that happen.
In particular, the law is interesting. As an individual, so say I want to take care of my elderly, aging parents at some point, I can become a home health provider. And this is where the Somali community has been really clever. They've been able to find loopholes in Ohio law to provide for care for family members, even when they don't need it. And what's specific about this is there's a model that we've created, but there's loopholes in terms of fraud. And there's really a playbook here in terms of what the Somali community is doing. So an individual will come in from the community. Many times they have a translator, and they will ask a doctor to say, my family member has memory issues, they need help bathing, they can't assist or take care of themselves. So mobility issues, fall risks, preparation of meals. And many clinicians, what they're doing is they're rubber stamping this. Clinicians are getting kickbacks, which means that if they rubber stamp this, once that individual or that provider starts getting funding through the state of Ohio, they get a kickback, which means a small.
All right, well then let's take these clinicians, right, and the people that are getting this fake freaking care, defrauding the system, and throw them in prison and or deport them from the United States. Like, that's what we need to do. I don't know why we need to talk about this for 10 minutes to come to the conclusion that that's what we need to do.
Piece of that funding that's really meant for severely disabled individuals. The reason I know that this is happening, again, providers have been asked to rubber stamp memory issues. All of this is subjective, right? If you think about it, you come in and you say, my parent is aging, they don't remember things, they can't bathe themselves, they're falling. All you're doing as a doctor, the ones that are corrupt, the ones that are getting kickbacks, the ones that know full well that a Somalian individual really doesn't need that care, they're just rubber stamping a lot of these. And then that same individual, a week later, that's supposed to be bedridden, is all over social media, whether they're out dancing at a party or something like that. So the symptoms aren't really adding up at the end of the day. And so several of the community members started reaching out to say, we did not want to engage in fraud. We specifically said, no, we will not be a provider to the Somalian community. So they have been excommunicated from a lot of these activities. And
yeah, sounds to me like an insanely corrupt situation. I think she's kind of gotten to the gist of it here. I don't know what else she's going to say in this 10-minute video, but I'm starting to feel like it's not even necessary to play the whole thing. So, like, you guys get the point out there. We do have another video, though. This is an example, an alleged example of how this kind of fraud is actually getting around. So let's take a look.
Oh yeah, the Somalians have it figured out in Columbus. I went to the Walmart on Georgesville to see if I could see people filling their carts or just kind of see what I could see. It's not the way they do it. They've got it figured out way better than that. Every single Somali restaurant has a grocery store right next door or within eyeshot of the restaurant. The specific one I went into today had it attached to the restaurant. And wow, what an adventure that was. Stay tuned for more on that. Anyways, the grocery store and the restaurant were the same building. So they don't have to go to a Walmart or a Sam's Club or a Costco necessarily. They can just order everything they need to their grocery store that's right next to or attached to the restaurant that they also own and never have to fill a single cart. And I guarantee you, if you looked at the records of those grocery stores, they lose tons of money every year, and it's probably used as a tax write-off because those groceries are being funneled into those restaurants, with a daycare center on the opposite side. And that's the common trend you'll see. There's restaurants, grocery stores, and daycare centers, and also home health care businesses. I can't forget the home health care businesses. Nakia was absolutely right. And the reason for the daycare centers I found out while I was at Walmart. 3/4 of the workers I saw working in Walmart, especially the cashiers, were Somali women. You gotta figure, if you have 2 or 3 wives that you don't have to claim, these women can go work at Walmart full time for $15 an hour and still qualify for food stamps as long as they have a couple kids, which you can guarantee you they at least have 2 kids. Hell, they average 7. Or same story as working as a home health care aide. They have most definitely figured out the system and how to take advantage of it. And Columbus doesn't break down its numbers like Minnesota, but if anything like the 88% of the Somali community is on social services in Columbus, I can only imagine how deep the fraud is. So I'm changing tactics and going back up Monday, and I have a couple ideas to see if I can't sniff a few things out. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, so I mean, if these people figured out the system, figured out how to game it, then I say it's time to let the system burn. So there's that, once again, guys, from thegatewaypundit.com. The fraud problem with the Somalis happening in Ohio, too. Next one here comes from Daily Caller. Trump DOJ seeks to block officials from testifying in Judge Boasberg probe. A little bit of a showdown here. The DOJ moved Friday to block current and former officials from testifying in a probe launched by Judge James Boasberg. Not sure why the hell Judge Jamesburg is launching a probe. Never even heard of a judge launching a probe, but let's go ahead and figure it out. Boasberg, an Obama appointee and absolute Marxist psychopath, plans to hold contempt hearings next week to investigate whether the government willfully violated his March order to turn planes around that were carrying alleged members of the Tren de Aragua gang. Though the Supreme Court vacated Boasberg's original order blocking deportation because it was filed in the wrong venue, he determined in April that probable cause exists to find the government in criminal contempt for violating it. In its motion filed with the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, the DOJ also asked for the case to be reassigned to another judge, given the strong appearance that Boasberg is engaged in a pattern of retaliation and harassment and has developed too strong a bias to preside over this matter impartially. His latest order threatens attorney-client privilege and the separation of powers underpinning our government, all because this administration dared to remove Venezuelan Tren de Aragua terrorists from this country, Attorney General Pam Bondi wrote on X. This radical, retaliatory, unconstitutional campaign against the Trump administration will not stand. Boasberg called for testimony from former DOJ Attorney Erez Roivani and Deputy Assistant Attorney General Drew Ensign. Roivani alleged in a whistleblower disclosure that Emil Bove, who formerly was a high-level DOJ official before being appointed as a federal judge, suggested the department may need to consider telling the courts, fuck you, and ignore any such court order. Bove has denied that he advised anyone at the DOJ to violate a court order. Boasberg has already sought written declarations from several administration officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. In short, absent this court's intervention, the district judge plans to compel wide-ranging testimony from government lawyers starting on Monday, with cross-examination by opposing counsel who have a partisan interest in attacking the government and its officials, with no meaningful protections in place to protect privilege despite overt threats to vitiate all such protections, and to do so in service of a putative criminal investigation that the court has no constitutional authority to undertake and that a judge of this court has already determined is fundamentally flawed as a matter of law, even though these witnesses have no knowledge relevant to the sole question that the court seeks ostensibly to investigate, the government wrote in its filing, which that filing sounds pretty freaking brutal against Boasberg to me. So there is that, guys. I really don't know what to say about this, other than this is obviously a showdown between the Trump DOJ and Judge Boasberg here. My money's on the Trump DOJ winning this one. I'll let you guys know what happens next in this, fireworks show or something. It's probably going to end up being. Maybe Judge Boasberg will end up flying too close to the sun. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one here from justthenews.com. Federal judge prohibits immigration officials from detaining Kilmar Abrego Garcia. That's right, my friends. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is back in the news, and that, in and of itself, is bad news. A federal judge on Friday prohibited immigration officials from detaining Kilmar Abrego Garcia a day after the court ordered his release from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody. Abrego Garcia's lawyers asked the judge to block authorities from detaining him again as he was appearing Friday morning for a scheduled appointment at Nice Field Office, the Associated Press reported. U.S. District Judge Paula Zinnis in Maryland, an Obama appointee, another absolute Marxist psychopath, said that officials cannot re-detain him until the court conducts a hearing on the motion for the temporary restraining order. Abrego Garcia said at a news conference on Friday, "I stand here today with my head held high, and I will continue to fight and stand firm against all of the injustices this government has done upon me. Regardless of this administration, I believe this is a country of laws, and I believe that this injustice will come to an end." Simon Sandoval Moschenberg, Abrego Garcia's attorney, said he is prepared to defend his client against further deportation efforts. The government still has plenty of tools in their toolbox, plenty of tricks up their sleeve, Sandoval Moschenberg said, adding that he expects the government to take steps to deport his client again. "We're going to be there to fight to make sure there is a fair trial." The Department of Homeland Security criticized Zinnis' order and vowed to appeal, calling the ruling naked judicial activism by a judge appointed during the Obama regime. "This order lacks any valid legal basis, and we will continue to fight this tooth and nail in the courts," DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said. So there it is from justthenews.com. And guys, I just cannot wait until the Kilmar Abrego Garcia matter is completely and utterly over. I really hope that it ends in him permanently leaving the flipping country. I think that's the only good outcome here. So there it is, guys, once again from justthenews.com. Next one here comes from the Gateway Pundit. MS-13 gang member Kilmar Abrego Garcia vows to fight the Trump administration after judge blocks ICE from arresting him. So here is just a clip of this friggin' moron saying, yeah, I'm going to fight the Trump administration also. I don't think this guy uses the word upon in his daily language. I think somebody else wrote this shit for him. It's a script. So here you go. Here's Kilmar.
Y ahora estoy aquí de pie frente a ustedes y la lucha.
Oh, he's just speaking Spanish in the United States. What a way to respect the country that you're in, you freaking jackass.
La lucha seguirá. Yo seguiré de pie. No le bajaré la cabeza a nadie. Siempre estaré de pie sobre todas las injusticias que ha hecho este gobierno.
I stand here today with my head held up high, and I will continue to fight and stand firm against all of the injustices this government has done upon me.
So there's that. Once again, guys, from thegatewaypundit.com. Again, can't wait until we're saying goodbye permanently to Kilmar Abrego Garcia and everybody else like him who thought that they had the right to come into the United States illegally. Next one here comes from thegatewaypundit.com as well. DN9 Tulsi Gabbard shreds Democrat Representative Benny Thompson for calling deadly terrorist attack on National Guard an unfortunate accident. And I'm sure you guys saw this clip out there yesterday of Benny Thompson saying this. Just absolutely freaking shameful. How dare this son of a, I'm trying not to swear on my show, guys, but how dare this son of a bitch actually get up there and say that a terrorist attack in which somebody deliberately shot 2 National Guardsmen in the head was an unfortunate accident. No, it wasn't an accident, dude. The guy did it completely on purpose, and he never should have been here in the first place. And the reason he was here in the first place was because of the Biden administration and their stupid little program to bring as many Afghanis to the United States as humanly possible during the withdrawal. That's what led to this crap. And Benny Thompson saying, "Oh, it's unfortunate accident." And today he actually had the gall to make excuses for himself and play dumb and say "Oh, I just misspoke." You misspoke. Really. It's incredible, guys. It's just completely incredible. During a Friday appearance on Fox and Friends, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard tore into Democrat Congressman Benny Thompson for downplaying a recent terrorist attack on U.S. National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. as an unfortunate accident. The incident, which left 1 guardsman dead and another critically wounded, who just the other day actually got up from his bed, so I guess he is recovering, which is great to hear, highlights the ongoing fallout from the Biden administration's chaotic 2021 Afghanistan withdrawal and lax vetting of evacuees. The attack unfolded November 26th when 29-year-old Afghan evacuee Ramanullah Lakhanwal opened fire on West Virginia National Guard members near the White House. Lakhanwal, who entered the U.S. during the Kabul evacuation, shouted Allahu Akbar as he fired a revolver, killing 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom and severely injuring Andrew Wolf. The troops were deployed to combat rising crime in the nation's capital. Lakhanwal now faces charges, including first-degree murder, while armed and is being held without bond. During a House Homeland Security Committee hearing on Thursday, Thompson, the former chair of the committee, referred to the shooting as an unfortunate accident and an unfortunate situation while grilling Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Thompson blamed Noem for pinning the blame on Joe Biden, ignoring the broader context of inadequate vetting that allowed suspected terrorists into the country. Secretary Noem pushed back immediately, stating, "Unfortunate accident, it was a terrorist attack. He shot our guardsmen in the head." And here's the clip.
NCTC referenced the unfortunate accident that occurred with the National Guardsmen being killed.
You think that was an unfortunate accident?
I mean...
It was a terrorist attack.
Wait. Look, I'll get it straight. Then you can
He shot our National Guardsmen in the head.
Look, Mr. Chairman, will you direct the witness to allow me to ask my question? It was an unfortunate situation, but you blamed it solely on Joe Biden.
Yeah, and that's where the blame lies. Joe Biden's administration is the people that brought this guy into the United States, were they not? It's just incredible. Gabbard did not hold back in her criticism. Let's see what she has to say about this.
It's absolutely infuriating. This is someone who is a very, very senior leader in Congress, who for a long time has led the Homeland Security Committee in Congress. and the fact that he cannot and refuses to directly identify this attack for what it was, a terrorist attack on our own soil against our National Guard men and women in this case, who are putting their lives on the line. Their direct mission was to keep the American people safe right here on our streets in Washington, D.C. This exchange really points to the egregious and long-standing problem, Brian, that we've seen, which is leaders, some on both sides of the aisle, who refused to identify this Islamist terrorist threat for exactly what it is, which is one of the reasons why we find ourselves in the position that we're in today.
Excuse me, I was muted. My apologies. So what I was saying is that the reason why the Democrats are this way, right? She says, they're refusing to acknowledge that it's an issue, the Islamic terrorism, right? The reason why, obviously, is because when you say something like Islamic terror, in the Democrat brain, that just immediately makes them think that's a racist thing to say. This person's a racist because they said Islamic terror. No, you're not. You're not a racist. You're just naming the damn problem. So this is part of the issue. This obsession with race and this hyper-vigilance of not being racist is just ridiculous, and it leads to real harm. It leads to people coming into our country that do not belong here, that have no right to be here, and that are going and end up doing things to people that are bad. Like what happened here. All because some horrible people out there, and they are horrible people, just don't want to be called racist. It's insane, guys. It's absolutely insane. They call it, civilizational suicide. It is. It's suicidal empathy, right? Suicidal empathy. So there it is. Next one here from the Gateway Pundit. Semi-truck driver arrested in deadly crash in Washington state is an Indian illegal alien released into the U.S. by the Biden regime. Unfortunately, this is like a repeat, except this is not the same story. It's a separate one of the same thing occurring. How much more is this going to happen until blue states decide to stop giving illegal aliens CDLs? Seriously, how many more deaths is it going to take to convince the Democrats to do something about this? You know what's messed up? They could have like 1,000 people in a year die to accidents because of Indian semi-truck drivers that can't even speak English, right? They'll sit there and pretend that that's not a problem, right? But then, one person dies in a shooting somewhere, and then they clamor about gun control for freaking a month straight. CNN and MSNBC, every time there's a shooting, right? Especially a shooting that involves more than one person, and especially a shooting that involves a child, God forbid. But every time that happens, we got to do something about this, and we got to take away the guns. We got to implement more gun control, guys. But a family of 6 is killed by a semi-truck driver from India who wasn't even supposed to be in our country, was given a CDL by a blue state, can't even speak English, and the Democrats don't have a single word to say about it. Not one word to say about it. It's just glaring hypocrisy, is it not? It kind of goes to, it kind of tells us that the Democrats don't care about life at all. They don't subscribe to the sanctity of life. They only pretend to when they think it's politically advantageous for them to do so. I really hate the Democrat Party, guys. I hate them with every fiber in my being. And I know it's not godly to hate, but I'm not God, all right? And I'm an American, and I hate the Democrat Party. Starting to hate the Republican Party too, though. Really starting to hate the Republican Party for their backstabbing, fake, freaking cowardly, spineless behavior, man. It's unbelievable. The opportunity they've been squandering the past year. It just makes me freaking sick. It makes me sick. Spaz Oyeti out there with a very generous fleet. Thank you very much for the fleet, my friend. I really appreciate that. Extremely generous of you. There's ship number 1 sailing on by, and ship number 2 is on its way, making its way to the Foxhole dock. There it is. Spaz, once again, thank you so much for the fleet, my friend. I really, really appreciate that. And thank you for playing with us last night. That was really fun. You're a fantastic medic, and we'll probably play again tonight, so come join us, my friend. Alrighty, fam. Let's go ahead and get back into it. Did I even cover this story yet? No, I just ranted about this story for like 10 minutes or something, didn't I? Another one. The semi-truck driver who was arrested in a deadly crash in Washington state is an Indian illegal alien who was released into the U.S. by the Biden regime. 25-year-old Kamalpreet Singh killed a 29-year-old man on the morning of December 11th after he crushed the victim's vehicle between 2 trucks while driving northbound on SR 167. Singh, which is basically the last name of every one of these individuals that's done this, likely obtained his CDL in Democrat hellhole of California since he resided there. He's facing a vehicular homicide charge. The Auburn Examiner reported on the crash, saying troopers said 3 vehicles were traveling in one lane, lane 1, when 2 of them stopped for traffic and the third failed to slow in time. According to the State Patrol, a 2020 Freightliner Cascadia semi driven by 25-year-old Kamalpreet Singh of Elk Grove, California, struck the rear of a blue 2010 Mazda 3 sedan that had stopped behind a white 2016 Peterbilt truck. The Freightliner overrode the back of the Mazda and pushed it under the rear of the Peterbilt, which is, I've actually been in a car accident like this, where the vehicle that I was in ended up being pushed underneath the truck that we were in, behind. Troopers said the engine compartment of the Mazda caught fire after the impact, but the flames were quickly extinguished. The Freightliner and Mazda came to rest in the left lane and the Peterbilt on the right shoulder. Sadly, the driver of the Mazda, identified as Robert B. Pearson, 29 years old, of Bonnie Lake, died at the scene. Next of kin notifications were completed by State Patrol sergeants, the agency said. Singh first illegally entered the U.S. in Lukeville, Arizona in December 2023 and was released by Biden's Border Patrol. Per Fox News reporter Bill Malugin, I'm told that 25-year-old Kamalpreet Singh was arrested by U.S. Border Patrol in Lukeville, Arizona, after crossing illegally into the U.S. on the 24th of December 2023, but he was released into the U.S. Singh is now facing charges for vehicular homicide after he allegedly crashed into the back of a vehicle on SR 167 in Washington, crushing it between another truck and killing 29-year-old Robert B. Pearson. I'm told ICE has placed a detainer with him on local law enforcement in King County, Washington. Singh is not believed to have any relation to 2 other Indian illegal alien truck drivers with the same last name who are facing their own charges for killing people in crashes in California and Florida. So, last month, the criminal illegal alien semi-truck driver who obtained a CDL in California killed 2 people in Bend, Oregon after jackknifing the trailer. Per the DHS, on November 24th, 2025, Rajinder Kumar, a criminal illegal alien from India, jackknifed his semi-truck and trailer, blocking both lanes of U.S. Highway 20. A Subaru Outback collided with the semi-truck, tragically killing both the driver, William Micah Carter, and passenger Jennifer Lynn Lower. The DHS said Rajinder Kumar was released into the interior of the U.S. by the Biden administration. He obtained a CDL by California Governor Gavin Newsom's DMV. In October, an illegal alien semi-truck driver from India killed 3 people in Southern California in a fiery crash. As previously reported, after public pressure, the identity of the 21-year-old semi-truck driver who killed 3 people on a Southern California freeway was released, Jashanpreet Singh. According to Fox News reporter Bill Malugin, Singh is an illegal alien from India who was caught and released by Border Patrol agents at the El Centro, California sector by the Biden administration in March 2022. Over the summer, an illegal alien named Harjinder Singh killed 3 people on a Florida highway. The Punjabi driver who obtained his truck driving license in the Democrat-run sanctuary state of California and Washington state made an insane U-turn on Florida's Turnpike near Fort Pierce in August and caused a deadly crash. So, there it is, once again, guys, from thegatewaypundit.com. I don't know how many times this needs to happen for this CDL bullshit to come to a close, but it's really, it's just tiring. Over and over and over again, seems like every single month we have another one of these deadly crashes in which Americans die to somebody that should not have even been in our country to begin with, and certainly shouldn't have had a CDL. So there is that, once again, guys, from thegatewaypundit.com. Very angering stuff is... It's just completely out of control, guys. Next one here comes from the Epic Times. Judge accused of helping illegal immigrant escape is set to stand trial. Here is what to know. A judge in Wisconsin, that Dugan lady, is set to stand trial on Monday after she allegedly tried to help an illegal immigrant evade deportation earlier this year. Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan faces charges of obstruction and concealing an individual to prevent his discovery and arrest after she allegedly escorted 31-year-old Eduardo Flores Ruiz out of a back door of her courtroom so he would not be apprehended by immigration agents waiting to detain him. Here's what to know about the upcoming trial. According to a government affidavit, Flores Ruiz was in Dugan's court on April 18th, awaiting a hearing on 3 counts of domestic abuse. The Mexican native had previously been deported from the United States in 2013, but re-entered at an unknown time. Upon learning of his charges and hearing, immigration authorities secured a warrant for his arrest on April 17th. After a courtroom deputy learned that Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents were at the hearing to take Flores Ruiz into custody, he asked them to wait outside and arrest him when the hearing was over. They agreed, but when Judge Dugan learned about the immigration officials, she became visibly angry, commented that the situation was absurd, left the bench, and entered chambers, according to witnesses. Dugan and another judge then confronted the immigration officials, telling them that their administrative warrant was not sufficient to arrest Flores Ruiz. They needed a judicial warrant. She told the group of officers that they needed to speak to the chief judge of the courthouse. While they were being escorted to the chief judge's chambers, Dugan allegedly returned to her courtroom and led Flores Ruiz and his attorney through a backroom jury door. Immigration officers noticed him leaving the building and after a brief foot chase arrested him. He was deported in November, the Department of Homeland Security announced. Meanwhile, Dugan was arrested for her alleged part in his attempted escape and indicted by a grand jury in May. The government says Dugan violated 18 U.S. Code Sections 1505 and 1071, obstruction of pending proceedings and concealing a person from arrest. If convicted, she faces 6 years in prison. Dugan moved to dismiss the case, arguing that she is immune from prosecution for official acts done in her courtroom in the courthouse. The government's prosecution of Judge Dugan is virtually unprecedented and entirely unconstitutional, her attorneys wrote in their filing. Immunity is not a defense to the prosecution to be determined later by a jury or court. It is an absolute bar to the prosecution at the outset. Apart from the immunity claim, the judge argues that the 10th Amendment bars the federal government from intruding on the state's police power. The government's prosecution here reaches directly into a state courthouse, disrupting active proceedings and interferes with the official duties of an elected judge, her response argued. The government, in turn, said Dugan was relying on civil law, not criminal, and that the Supreme Court had already ruled that judges are not immune to criminal prosecution. U.S. District Judge Lynn Adelman rejected Dugan's arguments in August and ordered her to stand trial. There is no basis for granting immunity simply because some of the allegations in the indictment describe conduct that could be considered part of a judge's job, Adelman wrote in his decision. Dugan's attorneys have also argued that she was just following a draft policy set down by Milwaukee County Chief Judge Carl Ashley, which barred immigration officials from making arrests in non-public areas. Dugan's trial is set to begin December 15th, and jury selection is underway. Because the case has gained wide public attention through media coverage and social media statements by officials, including FBI Director Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi, the defense has expressed concern that the judge will not get a fair hearing. They have sent potential jurors a questionnaire probing which media outlets they use, their political leanings, and which stickers are attached to their vehicles, laptops, and water bottles. The defense team is asking the judge to exclude audio recordings of the courtroom while the incident took place on the grounds that the judge was not present and the conversations may prejudice the jury against her. Dugan has also set up a website soliciting funds to cover her legal expenses. Her case is similar to a 2018 incident in which Massachusetts District Judge Shelley Joseph and her clerk allegedly helped an illegal immigrant sneak out of a courthouse to avoid detention by ICE agents. The Department of Justice under former resident Joe Biden dropped most of those charges and deferred prosecution of the clerk for perjury in 2022. So there is that, guys, once again from theepictimes.com. And of course, I will keep you guys updated on the Dugan trial as we move forward. Hopefully she ends up being convicted. This type of behavior should not at all be tolerated in the United States, especially when it's being done by a judge. So there it is. Next one here comes from the National Pulse. DOT discovers over half of New York commercial drivers are illegals and threatens to revoke federal funding. U.S. Department of Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy warned on Friday that New York could lose $73 million in federal highway funding following a Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration audit. The audit revealed that 53% of sample commercial driver's licenses issued by the New York Department of Motor Vehicles were unlawfully granted to foreign nationals residing in the U.S. illegally. When more than half of the licenses reviewed were issued illegally, it isn't just a mistake, it is a dereliction of duty by state leadership, Secretary Duffy said, adding Governor Hochul must immediately revoke these illegally issued licenses. If they refuse to follow the law, we will withhold federal highway funding. The FMCSA audit reviewed 200 New York CDL records, finding that 107 licenses were unlawfully issued. In some cases, the DMV reportedly issued licenses based on expired lawful presence documents or defaulted to granting 8-year licenses to foreign commercial drivers without verifying their legal status. FMCSA Administrator Derek Bars labeled the state's practices a grossly unacceptable deviation from federal regulations. However, New York officials are denying the allegations, of course. That's what they always do. DMV spokesman Walter McClure accused Secretary Duffy of political posturing, stating, "Secretary Duffy is lying about New York State once again in a desperate attempt to distract from the failing, chaotic administration he represents." McClure insisted that the state complies with all federal regulations and reviews lawful status documents for all CDL applicants. The Department of Transportation has given New York 30 days to respond. In addition to revoking the illegally issued licenses, Duffy has urged the state to pause issuing new licenses or learner's permits and conduct a comprehensive audit of its CDL program. So there is that, guys, once again from the nationalpulse.com. Sounds to me like the person from New York is lying, right? Because if DOT did a review, if the Department of Transportation did a review, right, on all the CDLs that you've issued, or a sampling of 200 CDLs that you've issued, and they found that 107 of them were not proper, and that those people never should have gotten a CDL, yeah, sorry, that doesn't really sound to me like you guys are doing everything by the book and following federal regulations over in New York. Sounds like the opposite, actually. It sounds like you're not doing your job at all. Otherwise, you wouldn't have literally half of your CDLs being illegal. So, there is that, guys. Once again, from the National Pulse. Absolutely insane. Next one here comes from Breitbart.com. Accused Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson smirks in first in-person court appearance. Tyler Robinson, the Utah man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk, smirked Thursday during his first in-person court appearance since his September arrest. I really don't know what he's so happy about. Footage of the 22-year-old sitting in the Provo court shows him sport a smile while speaking with his attorney. And here's footage of this little jackass.
Being delivered to the
evil
courthouse.
bastard,
Some of the
man.
doors are zip tied, so all types of measures being taken to make sure that this proceeding happens safely and securely today. Now, on the docket today, perhaps one of the most important issues, there was an October 24th hearing in which Judge Graff determined Robinson will be allowed to wear civilian clothing in court, as you see on your screen right now, but he has to remain shackled. Now, also in that October 24th hearing, general security measures and other issues of fairness in this trial were discussed in a...
Hope he gets the death penalty, dude. Zero remorse, wrote Jack Posobiec, a close friend of Kirk's, and yeah, clearly the dude has no remorse for what he did. Robinson was granted permission to wear street clothes instead of a typical prison jumpsuit before the judge, but his request to ditch the shackles was denied, Fox News noted in its coverage. He's facing charges of aggravated murder, felony use of a firearm, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and commission of a violent offense in the presence of a child for the September 10th shooting at Utah Valley University. Robinson, who was arrested on September 11th after allegedly confessing to a family member that he had killed Kirk, has not yet entered a plea to those charges, according to CNN. His Thursday hearing was centered on issues of transparency and public accessibility to the case, the outlet noted. Robinson's defense wants cameras to be banned in the courtroom, but Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, has advocated for the proceedings to be made public. "We deserve to have cameras in there," she told Fox News' Jesse Waters last month. "Why not be transparent?" Her husband was the co-founder of conservative organization Turning Point USA and was speaking at an event on the UVU campus when investigators say he was fatally shot in the neck by a gunman perched on a nearby rooftop. The FBI confirmed that DNA matching the suspect was found on the rooftop and on a towel that covered the murder weapon where it had been hidden in a wooded area. Also, apparently they found the DNA on the trigger of the weapon, which is, that just makes the case cut and freaking dry. A message allegedly sent by Robinson to his transgender romantic partner with whom he lived appeared to confess to the assassination and complained of Kirk's hatred, Breitbart News reported. And that's not the only confession that we have. We have another one on Discord and also to his parents. In the charging document, prosecutors described how Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders, the document states. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event at UVU, which Robinson said was a stupid venue for the event. Robinson accused Kirk of spreading hate. Kirk's final book, Stop, in the Name of God, was posthumously released earlier this week. So there is that, guys, once again from Breitbart.com. And of course, I will keep you guys updated on the trial as we move forward. I'm glad that they're going to be allowing cameras in the courtroom. Next one here from the Federalist. Senator Ron Johnson asks the DOJ to investigate judge accused of misconduct in Trump lawyer's trial. So, an update here. Wisconsin's senior senator wants the Department of Justice to investigate alleged judicial misconduct in a criminal case targeting 2020 Trump campaign attorneys. On Thursday, Senator Ron Johnson sent Attorney General Pam Bondi a letter asking the DOJ to review the case to determine whether any wrongdoing has occurred in the suspect production of a liberal Dane County judge's earlier order rejecting motions to dismiss the case. As the Federalist reported this week, court filings accused Dane County Circuit Court Judge John Hyland of having outside help from a retired judge who holds a grudge against his former colleague Jim Troupis. A renowned election law attorney, Troupis served as one of the Trump campaign's legal representatives following the irregularity-riddled 2020 presidential election in Wisconsin. Leftist Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul has charged Troupis, fellow attorney Kenneth Chesebro, and Trump campaign aide Mike Roman with 11 felony counts of forgery and fraud for their efforts to protect Trump's electoral votes while the president contested the results of the disputed election. Joe Biden claimed an extremely narrow victory in Wisconsin amid charges of election law violations, particularly in Wisconsin's liberal strongholds, Madison and Milwaukee. The highly partisan prosecutor accuses the defendants of using fake electors in an attempt to snatch Wisconsin's 10 electoral votes from Biden. But the strategy of enlisting a slate of alternate or contingent electors has been employed in past disputed presidential elections. Motions for dismissal note as much and accuse the Democrat AG of pushing manipulated charges not supported by state law in pursuit of a political conviction of Trump allies. In motions filed this week asking that Hyland be removed from the case and his August order be vacated, Troupis' attorney Joe Bugney asserts that the decision was ghostwritten by retired Dane County Judge Frank Remington. Bugney backs up his assertion with a report by a linguistic expert who found it highly likely from a linguistic perspective that the August 22nd court order was written by Judge Remington despite the fact that it is signed by Judge Hyland. If so, that would not only be a clear breach of judicial ethics and Wisconsin law, it would also present a personal conflict, Bugney argues. Troupis, a former Dane County judge and an extremely rare conservative one at that, was not Remington's cup of tea according to the motion to disqualify Hyland. Judge Remington was, to put it mildly, not a fan of my client when they were in practice or when they were colleagues on the bench, Bugney wrote. Moreover, Judge Remington retired from the bench on May 3rd before the motions were ripe. We filed our reply on May 12.5. The name of Remington's son, a Dane County law clerk, appeared in the order's metadata according to the motion, which, it makes it pretty cut and dry, right? Hyland confirmed in a meeting with Bugney and prosecutors that he had not worked with Remington's son before, yet he had received the draft of an order from the law clerk before Hyland had read all the case's briefs, the motion alleges. The presiding judge shrugged off the misconduct allegations and rejected the motions to remove him from the case. The court is satisfied that no person other the assigned staff attorney and I had a hand in drafting or editing the decision which this court signed and entered, the judge wrote, adding that he could be fair and impartial. Johnson isn't so confident. It's difficult to understand how Judge Hyland can make an impartial decision about Mr. Bugney's allegations when he is directly implicated, the Republican senator wrote in his letter to Bondi. Johnson copied Chadwick Elgersma, acting U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Wisconsin, Ed Martin Jr., the DOJ's pardon attorney, and Mary Beth Keppel, chairwoman of the Wisconsin Judicial Commission. Hyland also rejected the defendant's request to reschedule a primary hearing slated for Monday in a Dane County court. So there it is, guys, once again from thefederalist.com. I really do hope that this judge gets thoroughly investigated by the DOJ because he sounds extremely crooked to me. And I don't want this guy on the bench. I want him in a prison cell. Next one here comes from ZeroHedge.com. Social justice gone wild. Oklahoma BLM leader indicted on fraud and money laundering charges. Can't say I'm flippin' surprised, fam. Yeah, this literally comes as no surprise at all. I was actually just wondering when this would happen. A federal grand jury has unsealed a 25-count indictment against the leader of the far-left Marxist group Black Lives Matter in Oklahoma City over allegations of wire fraud and money laundering. Tashella Sherry Amore Dickerson served as executive director of Black Lives Matter OKC. As executive director, Dickerson had access to BLM OKC's bank, PayPal, and Cash App accounts where federal prosecutors allege she eluded the organization for her personal benefit, including travel to Jamaica and the Dominican Republic, tens of thousands of dollars in retail shopping, more than $50,000 in food deliveries, which, you can tell, and a vehicle and 6 properties. Holy cow. According to a Department of Justice press release, BLM OKC raised millions of dollars to support its woke mission from online donors and national bail funds. In total, BLM OKC raised $5.6 million, including grants from Community Justice Exchange, the Massachusetts Bail Fund, and the Minnesota Freedom Fund. Most of those funds were routed through Alliance for Global Justice as a fiscal sponsor to BLM OKC. The indictment said that BLM OKC was supposed to deploy these National Bail Fund grants to those who were arrested in connection with with riot/protests after the death of George Floyd. Yet, federal prosecutors allege that despite the organization's stated mission, Dickerson diverted $3.15 million for her own use, financing luxury travel, extensive shopping sprees, food deliveries, a personal vehicle, and multiple real estate purchases. Recreational travel to Jamaica and the Dominican Republic for herself and her associates, tens of thousands of dollars in retail shopping, at least $50,000 in food and grocery deliveries for herself and her children, a personal vehicle registered in her name, and 6 real properties in Oklahoma City deeded in her own name or in the name Equity International LLC, an entity she exclusively controlled. Corporate structure of BLM OKC, Jesse Jackson, founder? Yeah. Jesse Jackson, Kelly Blair, Precious Jenkins, Tashella Sherry Dickerson, all going to Black Lives Matter Oklahoma Foundation Society. The wild, wild west of the nonprofit world. You can hate America, start riots, burn down city streets, and do it all behind a 501c3. What has captured our attention is a FGJ. So there is that, guys, once again from ZeroHedge.com. Absolutely insane.
We're going to have...
And here's just a clip of this absolute nutcase. Now, she's being outed as an absolute freaking fraudster. She basically lied about what she was going to use the money for. She ended up spending it on $50,000 in food, a car, luxury travel, among other things.
We're going to have to lift our voices and stand for one another like we never have before. Because at this juncture in this country, we are watching the systems of white supremacy, fascism, classism, and all of the hatred and vitriolic tactics used.
Turns out, she's just grifting. She's just grifting, making a quick couple $1 million. So there's that. Next one here comes from the National Pulse. Trump administration probes Democrat-run city's anti-white housing policies. The Trump administration announced it has launched a major civil rights investigation into the city of Boston's housing policies, which allegedly favor Black, Latino, and other ethnic minority residents. Announced by the Department of Housing and Urban Development on Thursday, the investigation marks a significant federal intervention against local diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in the Democrat-run city. In a letter to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, HUD's Office of Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity chastised the city's approach, stating the context of race, fair housing is not about the absence of racial discrimination, but the presence of deliberate systems to achieve and sustain racial equity. No, that's actual discrimination. Assistant HUD Secretary Craig Traynor, who leads the FHEO, accused the city of embedding racial equity into every layer of operations in city government. Meanwhile, HUD Secretary Scott Turner described Boston's housing policies as a social engineering project driven by DEI ideology rather than legitimate housing needs. Turner vowed to bring the city into compliance with federal law, emphasizing this warped mentality will be fully exposed. The investigation focuses on several city initiatives, including the Boston Housing Strategy 2025, the Assessment of Fair Housing, the Anti-Displacement Action Plan. These plans include provisions such as targeting outreach to Black and Latino families, increasing lending in communities of color, and allocating homeownership opportunities specifically for BIPOC households. HUD argues these policies violate federal civil rights law and Supreme Court precedent against outright racial balancing. HUD has also criticized the city's use of racially based data tools and race-conscious marketing strategies, which it claims echo the logic of government-sponsored redlining. The department has requested documents from the city within 10 days and noted it may escalate the case by filing formal discrimination charges or referring it to the Department of Justice. So there is that, guys. Once again, from thenationalpulse.com. And of course, I will keep you guys updated on what's happening here. I honestly think that people should end up in prison if they've been pushing discrimination to this extent in contravention of federal law. But who knows what's going to happen. So there it is. With that being said, guys, we are at that halfway mark. We have, I think, how many more stories do we have to cover here? 17 more stories to cover here, so plenty more news to get into, and very much looking forward to covering the rest. There are 2 different links you guys can follow us over, or use to follow us over to Pilled.net with, and I do recommend you guys do follow us over. The first one's a welcome link that'll help you get set up on Pilled.net. Grab yourself your username, all that good stuff, and of course, there is also the second link that you can use to head right over to Pilled.net on my channel here without even having to log in or anything. You just won't be able to live chat, so keep that in mind. So yeah, follow us over to Pilled, guys. We're going to play a quick video here for Pilled, and then we'll be right back to the news on the other side of that. I will see you guys again in 60 seconds, actually less than 60 seconds. Yeah, follow us over to Pilled, guys. It is a fantastic platform. And I've actually been doing some work on there lately to make it look really, really cool UI-wise. So, super proud of that. Anyways, see you guys on the other end of the quick little Pilled-at. Here we go.
Pilled.net is proud to host The Breakdown, exclusively on the true home of free speech. To continue watching the show, we are here to help you over to Pilled. If you're new to the platform, just click on the welcome link. It will automatically walk you through signing up for your free account. If you already have a Pilled account, follow the link provided to take you directly to the Season Pixel stream. We are excited to have you join the Pilled family. And if you have any questions at all, just email support@pilled.net. Enjoy the rest of the breakdown with Season Pixels, exclusively on Pilled.net. Free speech lives here.
Indeed, free speech lives over at Pilled.net. Follow us over, guys. We have 17 more pieces of news to get into, and looking forward to covering the rest. I'll see you guys over there.